All right, now it has been a month and change since Valentine's Day, which means that we got a whole bunch of new couples out there.
Yes, darling.
Aw. Now, it also means that there are a lot of people who are in Act 2 or 3 of being scammed. What can we tell folks who are in the middle of a budding romance with somebody they have yet to meet?
I mean, meet them. That's kind of a easy one.
Well, but what if meeting them, Travis, includes sending them money to buy a ticket to meet you?
Nope.
Right. So this is, we call this better be sure you're actually talking to a real human being month.
I like that.
And whatever the acronym for that is, that's what we call it.
It's okay to be in a long-distance romance. I mean, a lot of us have been in legitimate long-distance romances. Just don't wire people money, send them tickets, send them compromising pictures that could come back on you.
And gift cards. If you're dating anyone online, you're in a long-distance relationship, you haven't actually met them, just never send them gift cards. That is a total red flag.
No, but hold on, wait. If you are dating me, everyone, send me gift cards to Home Depot.
What if someone is pretending to be you?
That is actually what we're talking about today.
Welcome to What the Hack, a show about hackers, scammers, and the people they go after. I'm Adam, cyber romance scammer squasher.
I'm Bo, cyber last act of a really good Shaolin Temple movie.
And I'm Travis, cyber squirrel at your bird feeder.
Today we're joined by a former U.S. Army officer who unwittingly became the face of thousands of romance scams. Bryan, welcome to our show, and we're going to be talking about a very touchy subject today, which is romance scams, which has really hurt an awful lot of people. So we appreciate the fact that you've come on and you're going to share your experience with us. So first things first, where are you coming to us from?
Well, first, let me say thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to be on today. I'm always happy to talk about romance scams and what I know of them. I really learned the hard way through my exposure with romance scams. But I'm calling in from Williamsburg, Virginia.
And you are a retired member of the United States Army?
Yes, sir. I served 26 years in the U.S. Army and retired just a few years ago.
Now, not just a retired service person, but you are a colonel, as I understand it.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, that is a big deal, guys. It's our first colonel.
That is a big deal. Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the recognition. I always like to, I'm really just a soldier.
What got you into the service?
I always wanted to be a soldier. I grew up on a tobacco farm in North Carolina. And so I knew my future wasn't going to be in a tobacco field. I always wanted to serve, always wanted to wear a uniform. I kind of detest bullies and people that try to inflict their will upon others. And I wanted to grow up and serve people and defend people that couldn't necessarily defend themselves.
Now, let's hone in a little bit. What are you doing in your post-military career these days? What's up?
So I do a little bit of defense consulting. I try to bridge the gap between what the Army is looking to provide soldiers in the next 20, 30, 40 years. And I try to articulate that to industry. Essentially, if I wish my boys and girls would have had that during my time in service in the Middle East or in Europe. And then my other passion is talking about really romance scams and something that I've become involved with since 2016. But it's really, I spend a lot of time in my not-for-profit talking about romance scams and trying to, steer people clear of them, so to speak.
So how did you first discover that you were unknowingly involved in a scam?
Well, it was like a bucket of cold water was all at once, really. I was just leaving the Army. I was updating my LinkedIn profile, as a lot of people do. I'd never had one. And so I got a contact very quickly from a lady in Canada. And she said, "Hey, I'd like to talk. I'm looking at your profile." And I was naive enough still. So I said, yes. I said, "Here's my phone number. If you'd like to talk, give me a call." And I really, quite frankly, I just assumed it was all about a job or something they were looking for an Army guy to do. And she reached out and said, "Hey, I think we've had a conversation over the last couple of weeks." I'm like, "Nope, I hadn't been talking to anybody." And I asked her to explain, and she said, "Well, you and I have been talking, and I'm going to send you some pictures." She sent me several pictures that I recognized as me off of Facebook, and some Army photos that the Army had taken of me when I was deployed. And then she said, "I'm going to send you a pair of tickets." She sent me plane tickets that had my name on them where I was flying into Montreal. She said, "You're supposed to be in Syria right now."
Now, I can't imagine that this woman didn't sound somewhat intense at this point. Sounds like she was put through the mill a little bit. She was contacting you essentially because she felt you were a scoundrel. Am I right?
I think she was trying to put the pieces together. I think she had been told by her daughter, "Hey, this isn't real. You're not talking to this guy." And her daughter went on LinkedIn, found my image, and said, "This is the guy that you're talking to that says he's talking to you, but I'm sure it's not that guy." And she reached out. In fact, she was quite decent about it. She quickly came around to the, "Yep, I've been scammed," without a lot of evidence, without me having to go to some strong links to explain that to her. And a lot of people don't get there that quickly, but yeah, she put it together pretty quick. And she said, "Go to Facebook, put your name in the search bar and see what happens." And I did. And there were double digits, my pictures and fake profiles that came up.
Is it your picture and your name?
Exact spelling, same picture. I mean, not different pictures of me, the exact same picture, and my name came up. Again, double digits. And at that point, it's like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? What is happening here?
So what is your understanding of what happened, Bryan? You said it was a guy who put up your profile on Facebook.
Sure.
What do you know about that?
Yeah, I look okay enough for this to be believable, but not so good that it's not possible that this guy is out there really looking for romance or something. So I think there's somewhere in between. And I think it has everything to do with the initial pictures that were taken, both the Army photos and my personal photos off LinkedIn. I think it's, I'm a guy in a uniform. I'm a guy with a son in his scout uniform. And then it's me and my son with our horses in North Carolina. And really from those three pictures, this guy, and I say this guy, but it's really not a guy. It's teams of guys. It's organized criminals. It's guys working in an internet cafe across the ocean in a place like Lagos, Nigeria. This is a full-time job for them. But if you get these three pictures, it's easy to build a story about a guy who's in the service, doing great and wonderful things, troop justice in the American way, and all that stuff. Recognized credibility in the Army. And he's got a boy, and he's a widower, and his son's at boarding school. And all of a sudden now, his son's been injured in a horse riding accident, and he needs money to help him because he's overseas and can't access his funds. And from that, those three images, you can spin a pretty good web.
How did you find out it was a team?
Essentially, my partner in crime in this, Kathy Waters, who found me in November, and we performed our not-for-profit together. We did a bit of investigative work and built a couple of profiles and corresponded with a couple of the scammers enough to know that, and quite frankly, just based on the volume of fake profiles, the volume of sites that I'm on, both, any site that you could think of, and then a lot of dating sites that you probably never think of, like Chinese singles and things like that. I mean, I'm on a number of these things. So there are teams of people that do this, and it's just not one team. It's different teams operating out of Ghana, operating out of Lagos, operating out of India now.
When you said you investigated that, what does that look like? It's kind of hard to imagine exactly where you would even begin to try to track down a international romance scam ring.
Well, it was pretty easy. You wait for one of the guys to send you a friend request. You put something online and you start a dialogue with the guys that are using your pictures. Kathy would go in and friend them and start a dialogue. And they thought, okay, yep, they're doing their job by trying to scam her. And she's asking them questions that, at first were pretty easy questions. And like, where are you? What are you doing? The normal kind of conversation, but then harder questions about the military, how the Army works, that, would be relatively easy for someone in the military to explain, but they couldn't explain it because they weren't in the military. They were scammers posing as someone in the military. And then it kind of gave it to, hey, I know what you're doing. I would like to be involved. How do I do what you're doing? And this kind of thing. And they were very quick to say, hey, we're always looking for people to be money mules in the States. And so you say, hey, I want to be part of this. What are they going to say? I mean, what? And then if you say, well, I want to bring you to justice. I'm going to prosecute you. I'm going to collect information on you. They're a world away. They're in a foreign country, right? We have little recourse and little avenues to seek justice. And that's one of the most frustrating things about this kind of scam or any kind of scam that really comes out of a foreign country. This is a country to country kind of relationship that has to develop where both countries want to stamp this kind of thing out. As just a private citizen, you don't have that kind of reach. One, to prove in all the internet cafes in all the world and in this village, who was sitting at this table, at this computer, with this IP address. I mean, so you could operate with impunity.
No, that in some countries there is, no hope, no jurisdiction, no cooperation. But in Nigeria, the Nigerian government is working with the U.S. now or not?
So, of course, for the Nigerian government, they don't like to be known as a country where this kind of thing originates. But again, if you're overseas working out of an internet cafe, right, and where people come and go all the time and use the internet, who's to say who's on a computer at any given time? And so it's really hard for them to compile or receive evidence from the United States. One, we have to build cases here. Our FBI has to build a case and then transmit it to a country like Nigeria. And that's got to be received and then executed or actioned on. And it is really hard. So, I mean, I don't say that the Nigerian government turns a blind eye to this. This is a really hard thing, even when it's happening in our country, to track down the people that are doing it and then prosecute them. It's really difficult.
Have you been able to figure out exactly how many copies of your profile are out there right now?
So with Facebook still responded and talked to us, they had said I was in the top 3 most replicated profiles on social media.
Congratulations.
It is, I can tell you, it is not something that you want.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's me and I don't like it. And I find that, people that I've worked to defend and protect, now being taken advantage of with, my image and my uniform, my credentials are being used to hurt people. And that bothers me. And so I want to do something about it. And so I wasn't trained not to fight back. And the Army did a pretty good job. And my folks and grandparents did a pretty good job in North Carolina, raising me and teaching me to fight back and to stand up for myself. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Fortunately, I've had a lot of help. And, quite frankly, we try to do a number of different things from talking to elected officials about the Decency and Communication Act and what could we do to modify that so social media giants could be held accountable for not acting on and removing fake profiles. We'd love to see justice take place, but as we just talked about, that's really hard to do. So the number one thing we can do is to talk about this and make people aware that romance scams are a real thing. And by doing so, hopefully people would avoid contact with scammers.
When you talk about Facebook and other like dating platforms and did you actually get anywhere by reporting these scams to them, or were they just pretty much hands off?
No, it was really an interesting relationship. No, did not get very far in terms of reporting the profiles. What we did get was a sit-down meeting, 3 sit-down meetings, and then that ranged from we've never heard of romance scams to yep, this is happening. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, probably the most successful bit we had was even when my partner in this, Kathy, would report profiles, or I would report profiles. At best, we only ever had a 33% or so deletion rate where they would take profiles down that I reported with my images. So that's not great by any odds.
It's pathetic.
So what they provided us was a phone number that we could call, and when we reported fake profiles to that individual, they would be gone, in overnight, 24, 48 hours, they'd make them go away. They stopped doing that a couple of years ago.
We always talk about the overt victim, which is the target of these scams. Very rarely is there a conversation about what's considered the unintended victim, which would be you, someone using your information and profile in order to trick other people. We know how it affects the lives of those who are targets. How does it affect a life like yours, for instance, where your profile's out there?
So I would say I'm lucky to a degree. I mean, most of the time, this does consume a chunk of my life. I mean, no doubt about it. And I'm a bit resentful of the people that do this and have, used my image to abuse people. I get really upset when I think about the number of people that have lost. I mean, and as you go through and kind of look at it, you realize people have given away money they don't have. People have given away their life savings. People have given away, their parents' money, their inheritance. I mean, they forfeited everything to be, involved in someone that they've never met, and that's tough. It's only been in like the last really 6 months or so that I realized the toll that actually is taking on my kids and my wife. My kids get messages like I do in the messages from people you don't know column. They get those, on a regular basis going, hey, I'm talking with your dad. I'm in a relationship. I want you to ask your mom to divorce him. And this kind of thing. And my kids are 16, 19, 21, and 23. And so they get this, and they have been they know what's going on. But my wife gets on a weekly basis, hey, I'm in a relationship with your husband. I think you're a terrible person. I want you to die. I want you to give him a divorce. Stop taking his money. I've talked to your kids and they love me and they want me to be their new mommy. And my wife deals with this. I mean, I wish I could tell you I'm exaggerating this, but I'm not. My wife deals with this every week from someone who says, I'm in a relationship with your husband. And my wife will go, oh, when was the last time you saw him? And the answer is, well, we've never actually met. And it goes from there. And she, God bless her, tries to say, you're with a scammer. And it's always, hey, I know you said you would say that. And so, and there's really, once people are committed to this, it's really hard to make a difference. I will tell you, it is hard to talk someone out of that relationship. I'm the lucky one. I get hey, I'm just trying to confirm. I think I've been scammed. I think I was talking to somebody that was using their image. Those are the easy ones. I mean, it's tough. And eventually, and I do find myself, you're breaking up with somebody and telling them, yep, I'm sorry, this has happened to you. But my wife really gets the venom-filled ones that are really terrible. And she deals with that.
Because those are the people who are addicted to their scammers. We're finding more and more of that when we talk to people. It's really an addiction, and it's a tragic addiction. This is a real tough one. And, I'm very sorry that you're caught up in the middle of all of this, because it's got to be gut wrenching, especially for someone who has spent their life defending people. And now suddenly you're being cast as the enemy by the bad guys. And the other thing that people have to understand that we've talked a lot about on this show is that, we have lives. Everybody's got lives. We're doing things. And for a lot of people, this is kind of extracurricular activity. But for these guys, This is their life. That's what they do. This is their job. They're like 9-to-5ers. And it's tragic.
Yeah, fighting this is a part-time job for me. I say I'm retired, but I do work. I've got a number of different activities, but this is my most significant part-time job, is trying to stop this. But for the guys that I'm fighting against, they're groups of guys. This is their job 24/7. This is what they do every day. This pays the bills. And they're good at it. They're good at manipulating people. They know what to say. And, they're going to send out 100 emails to people. Of those 100, they may get 25 that actually respond back to them. Of the 25, they may be able to establish a conversation with maybe 10. Of the 10, 2 will give money. 2 or 3 will give money. And that's all it takes.
Yep.
How widespread is this across the armed forces? Have you met other service members? I mean, probably obviously not with quite as many romance scams to their name, but.
So I've met, a number of guys across the military, people that I know and have worked with, a half a dozen guys that have had this happen to them in some way, shape, form, or fashion. The images have been used and they've spoken about it and tried to do something about it. But it's almost like the number of guys that come forward and say anything is almost like the number of ladies, or people, or victims that come forward and say anything, because there are male victims on both sides as well. I mean, people are embarrassed by it. And I was embarrassed by it. I didn't talk about it for 6 months after it started happening to me. I just didn't I couldn't believe my images in something like this. And I was mortified. I was horrified. I was embarrassed. And then when you do decide to do something about it, what do you do, that can make a difference? And you start to look at your options there and go, wow, this is going to be a really frustrating fight that will never end. I love it when I meet people and go, hey, is that still going on? It's going to happen. It's going to go on for the rest of my life. The images won't change. The pictures won't change. As long as people give money to those images and pictures, this will be a successful scam. Long after I'm gone. There's no end date to this.
So, Bryan, what I'm reminded of here, oddly, are all the people who find images of themselves becoming memes. You know what a meme is? So, it could be, I'm having a bad day and it's just a person having a really unique facial expression. And one thing that you have in common with some of these memes is they didn't sign up to be memes, but their image is being used over and over and over again. And yet, and you'd think there'd be legal recourse. I have a friend whose daughter was 3 or 4 and she was on a swing and looking very grouchy, and it turned into a meme. It really blew up. It went viral. And to this day, I think it's an issue for them. The difference is maybe even negligible, because some people have experienced serious stress, anxiety from being out there in that way. And you can't get that toothpaste back in the tube once it's out there. There are efforts, and I'm sure you're familiar with them right now, between Meta and OnlyFans, which is an adult content creator website. There are these venues that are trying to at least tackle revenge porn and the use of imagery of minors. And they are tagging them, and they're able to track that. Is there anything like that happening with the FBI or any other law enforcement with regard to someone in your situation?
I don't believe so. I certainly think, what's happened with my images and other people that are used like this goes well beyond what we would call fair use, right? If you post something out on the internet, it's fair use. It's just like a stock photo. But most of the time, stock photos aren't meant or are used to conduct fraud, to impersonating individuals with the intent to commit fraud and this kind of thing. So when I was having a dialogue with the FBI investigators that opened up my case, the term fair use came up a lot. And it's not like Facebook hasn't been warned or told, hey, this is enough. This is this guy. So,
it's not fair use. It's a garbage argument. It's not fair use.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know why there isn't any legal action? I mean, what's the problem? What's it going to take?
So basically, the social media giants, dating sites, Facebook, Google Meets, everybody can hide behind. The DCCA can Communication Act, and that's in Section 230, which basically holds the guys and gals that run these large bulletin boards. They're not liable for what gets posted on the bulletin board. They are not responsible, and so they can hide behind that. This was made in the 80s. It was to support the standing up of the internet and this kind of thing. So they didn't want to tarnish the creativity there and keep people from being able to stand up the internet and wonder what people might post. And here we are in 2023, and it's still in effect. And you can't hold the social media giants liable for what gets posted on their platform.
At some point, the scam will age out. This one, the Bryan Denny scam, will age out because you'll be able to post a picture of yourself in 10 years and say, this is what I look like now. And you're being sold a guy from 2016. Good luck with that.
I honestly, I would love to think that's a true statement, but I don't think so. It's been so hard to talk to people now. And I've done any number of podcasts and videos and stories. I post pictures, hey, this is my wife. These are my kids. And still, like the last time I did talk to my wife, the first thing she said was, yes, I know there's scammers that use his identity. He's already told me all about this. And so, okay, they have all the evidence. They have all the pieces there. And if they still don't buy it, you could recycle old pictures of me or whoever, as long as there's pictures to be posted.
This goes to the idea that I was getting at before, and you are actually kind of a meme, but in the romance scam column. And you really, it doesn't sound like you can get the toothpaste back in the tube. Now, I do believe the technology exists to do it. There's not the impetus to do it. To tag photos and say this is a scam, and the likelihood of this being a scam is high, could then be something that's passed on to dating sites and to social media sites. And they can say, when this image occurs, we automatically delete it because we know it's a scam. And they're not doing that.
You are exactly right. Those two things, you're exactly right. Two very important things. The technology exists. In fact, Facebook, halfway into our relationship with them said, hey, give us the pictures that are most used in scams, and we will identify them in our system, and we will prohibit accounts from being opened using those pictures. And we did that. And we saw no degradation in the number of fake profiles. And we saw fake profiles with those pictures still being used. And they're like, well, if you shade it or change it or manipulate it, the algorithms don't pick it up. And so we built a couple of fake profiles using those same images. And every time we did it, the algorithm still said, hey, this is Bryan Denny. And this is his suggested friend group. And it was all people that I don't know, but people from Lagos, Nigeria. They had it completely, the algorithms were smart enough to still identify the pictures. Even after we black and whited them or shaded them or manipulated them, it still knew who I was. And it had based a recommended friends list of scammers that had used my images to produce fake pages. I mean, so yes, the technology absolutely exists to do what you're wanting to do, prohibit fake profiles from being started, but it's up to those dating sites, as you said, that want to not have fake profiles on them. It's up to sites like Facebook that say, we don't want fake profiles. We're going to eliminate them by ensuring our algorithms do this. And there's no impetus to do that.
But the biggest problem is they don't. They just don't do it. They don't want to do it. And, the real question is, why don't they want to do it? And that's a question, I guess, for the ages. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. So having lived through all of this, what have you done to better insulate yourself and your family from identity theft, for instance?
Well, I can say I don't post a lot of stuff on Facebook anymore. I don't share. I don't share so freely. This is what I'm doing. This is what my family's doing. That kind of thing. I'm definitely close hold about that kind of information nowadays. I just don't share it with people anymore, which is, unfortunate. It's really not about protecting me. I know that every interview, every podcast, every time I'm doing something to talk about this, there's more exposure to me, which is good in terms of helping people get, involved in romance scams. But I also realized that snippets of anything I say, pictures or of any video that I do also can be used and used again to go back and voice over and take advantage of people by the scammers. One of the very first times Kathy and I were in DC talking to congressional representatives about romance scams. We took a picture in front of the White House. Within a week, that picture was used to start a fake profile, talking, again, another fake profile, looking to make contact with people and take advantage of people. So,
well, the bigger problem nowadays is going to be that somebody listens to this podcast and takes a recording of it, feeds it to an AI voice generator, and you will find sometime in the future, Bryan, I don't doubt it, your wife being forwarded a voicemail from you that isn't you.
Right.
Your voice, it'll be your voice.
Right.
But it won't be you. It may already be happening.
Yeah, I think it's here. Yeah.
It just is, your voice is on the record in podcasts, as you were saying, and on other media. Yeah. And that can be grabbed. And then a scammer has to do is change the words and have AI say, hey, honey, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in New York, but I don't have money for the tickets right now. Can you send me some money?
It's as simple as that.
Bryan, how is your organization advocating against romance scammers? How's that going?
Really well. I say really well. I could say that because it provides us an outlet to talk about what we've learned about romance scams. And we get a lot of people that log on. You can Google advocating against romance scammers. We've got a Facebook page. If the bad guys are on there, why aren't we? Right. And we've got a lot of good input going into the site. The FBI agent that opened up the case on me, started the case for me, is on our board, and we've got a number of other board members who are dedicated to really bringing awareness to romance scams. So we do a lot of work. There's a couple of resources in terms of how to report romance scams and things like that. But it is really a page where you can get information and kind of talk to other people who have kind of been through the process here. But again, a number one thing that we can do is spread the word and talk about it. Everything else from, bringing justice to some of these folks to change the 230. Those are goals that require a lot more work. But, quite frankly, getting on and talking about romance scams is a pretty easy thing for us to do at this point, and sharing the information about what happens. And what we like to do is have the victims provide an outlet for them to talk. I'm kind of convinced that there's certainly not a lot of these crimes that are reported, which is unfortunate. So that metric never really gets the recognition that it ought to get. I think it's embarrassing to people, like a lot of these crimes might be. And so victims don't report it. I think reporting it helps draw the attention to it that we really need. And reporting and talking about it is often very therapeutic. To kind of get it out on the table and move on.
So if one were to charge these scammers with a crime, right, mm-hmm. which hopefully we live long enough to see that happen,
right?
What crime is it?
So I think, you could talk about fraud, money laundering. There's a wire fraud charge in there. I think that's where Western Union went afoul. And I think those are the things that I would look at.
Next time someone asks you what crime these people would be charged with, I want you to give a different answer. I want you to say all of them.
I can do that.
Because, the fact is they are committing quite a few: identity theft, fraud, wire fraud. Gosh, what does the victim of this do? Is there anything practical that they can do, whether it's setting up a website that says, for all those who are in love with Beau Friedlander, this is me. What do you do?
I don't want to date you.com.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to date you.com. We could start up a site, Travis.
Well, yeah. So I think one of the things that I've tried to do is one, working to start a not-for-profit that talks about this, I do interviews, I do the podcast, I do, again, I realize it's a double-edged sword. The more I put my picture and my voice, I realize it's probably going to be used by nefarious people to create more products to scam folks by. But the other side of that is I'm sure, I'm confident, I'm positive that we've kept people from being abused through this kind of scam by talking about it, providing information about it, by sharing what we've learned, by starting a site. We've been to the Hill 3 times now. We're going to go back in a couple of weeks to talk to congressional representatives about romance scams, just to make sure, hey, this affects the constituents in your district to the tune of, this kind of dollar sign. It's a national problem to this kind of dollar sign. And so you've got to start thinking about, how do we stop it? How do we slow it down? And if social media giants supported guys like me, and most all the most social media giants rely on people reporting fake profiles. And if they took action on those fake profiles, we could get rid of a lot of the little fish. I mean, just by me going fake, take action on it. And that would allow the federal government to look at the bigger fish and target them. That's my thoughts. I mean, and I try to do my part by reporting the little fish. All the fish I see, I report.
Well, listen, if the little fish depended on their living swimming around in Mark Zuckerberg's crocodile tears, they're got some trouble.
The problem, though, is there's really almost nothing people can do other than limit as much exposure as they can on anything public, which most people don't do. And even if you as a person try to limit your exposure, that doesn't mean that all of your friends and family members don't find ways of posting pictures and everything else about you online. So we have to start with the premise there's nothing you can do to stop it before it happens unless you completely went off the grid, and people aren't going to do that.
It's I watch my 4 kids and their technique. So in dealing with this, one, my youngest daughter isn't allowed on social media, so that's pretty easy.
Good call.
My 23-year-old kid, my son, is not on social media at all. Doesn't care for it. He's got a profile that I built him when he was applying to colleges to show some of the stuff he was doing. He's an Eagle Scout, big into living history with me and this kind of thing. He said not into that, and he joined the Army, and he doesn't do anything on social media. One daughter, nationally ranked equestrian, in the college, in the horse riding. She has a profile. She is very savvy and very suspicious about things. And so she does good. My middle daughter, nothing on social media, not into it. So they're either really smart about how to handle it, or they have ditched it completely. And for kids in their early 20s, I'm surprised that, to find kids that can cut it off and just not have anything to do with it. My kids have seen it up and they just cut it off.
That's very impressive. Well, listen, Bryan, we really, really think this is a great opportunity for people to hear about all of the things you're doing and all of the pitfalls that people face. So if people want to learn more about advocating against romance scammers, where do they go?
So you could just Google that up, just like it sounds, AARS, or Advocating Against Romance Scammers. We've got a website, we've got a Facebook site, and you can sign in there and kind of see what we do and see what we're about. If you've been scammed or want to talk about your experience, have a loved one that's currently being scammed, I mean, we're happy to provide information and get you going down the right road there.
Yeah, you did dress brawny today, dude. Don't know what to tell you. You did. You went full brawny.
It's cold here today. It's like 40. It's like 44 outside. It's usually.
I'm feeling Marlboro Man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, the brawny guy has the mustache. It's kind of the Tom Selleck look.
I didn't know he had a mustache. Travis, you're a real connoisseur.
I really am. Yep.
That he is.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
And now it's time for the tinfoil swan.
Our paranoid takeaway to keep you safe online.
So what's on your mind this week? Adam?
Well, I personally donate to political campaigns and causes, but there is one thing I hate about it.
Politicians bothering you for money.
Well, besides that. See, when you donate money or sign up for any kind of cause, you're donating your contact information, which campaigns sell faster than I can eat a jar of peanut butter in my sleep.
That's pretty fast.
Very.
No real response to that one. But when a candidate taps out of a race and endorses an opponent, it usually includes access to their list of donors and supporters.
Well, I hate all politicians, and that's all I have to say about this.
Certainly. And when your email address starts getting shared with other organizations, it kind of makes you vulnerable to phishing scams. If a scammer knows your email address and then what issues matter to you, they got a great hook. So if you give money to a politician or organization that say is against animal cruelty, then they know they can send you an email with a picture of a puppy that tugs at your heartstrings and asks you for your payment information.
Everyone loves puppies. Hey, come on, really?
Beast.
Dirty. But as far as emails are concerned, it works the other way too. If you get an email from a political cause or a stance that you're diametrically opposed to, and there's an unsubscribe link.
Yeah, you're playing my song now. That's right. Unsubscribe.
And that, my friend, is what phishing scams rely on. They want you to click on a link. Sometimes the link leads to malware. Sometimes the link will take you to a page to capture your payment card information. But at the end of the day, the goal is to get that click.
You know what? Don't even open those emails. Most email clients have a button that just says unsubscribe. This is junk mail. These shtoons make money selling the very fact that your email is valid, which they know when you open it.
What's a shtoon?
Yeah, what is a shtoon?
Look it up.
Well, a lot of the time, you might just be a stepping stone for a bigger scam. The goal may be just to get your data to compromise your employer and to leverage that against someone further up the supply chain.
Okay, so what is the takeaway here, guys?
I never thought you'd ask. The easiest solution is just create a separate email account for any political or charitable activities. That helps silo your identity and to create a separation between your personal life, your work life, and your political or civic life.
I'm not doing this.
You also answer calls that are marked as scam likely. So, yeah, there we are.
Fair enough.
As much as it seems like a hassle to deal with multiple email accounts, it's a lot bigger of a hassle to deal with the fallout of identity theft and other scams.
That's true. And at the end of the day, doing what you think is the right thing politically or otherwise shouldn't have to mean putting a target on your back for scammers. Be careful.
And that, my friends, is our tinfoil swan. What the Hack with Adam Levin is a production of Loud Tree Media, produced by Andrew Stephen and Travis Taylor. Our executive producers are Beau Friedlander and Adam Levin. That's me. You can find us online at adamlevin.com and Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Adam K. Levin. Come back next week.
And rate and review. It really helps people find the show.